Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze how Mikel Arteta's tactics exploited Benfica's 3-5-2. When we break down the game and we do look at the board, like I said, we have Benfica in a 3-5-2 and Arsenal starting the game in a 4-2-3-1. So first, we're going to break down how Benfica looked to disrupt Arsenal from creating attacks and how Mikel Arteta's men were able to bypass Benfica's overall shape. So what we end up seeing here is that Benfica did look to push higher up the pitch, and they had their front two closing down Arsenal's center backs. And what was interesting here was that in this 3-5-2, the midfield trio all had responsibilities of covering their men. So you had Adel Taarabt stepping to Xhaka, Pizzi stepping to Ceballos, and Julian Weigl stepping into the path of Odegaard. If the ball was shifted out to Cedric or Bellerin, we would see the shuttlers shifting out into those zones unless the wingbacks did push higher up the pitch to close them down. That would leave Verissimo and Vertonghen with Smith Rowe and Saka, but there were cases where the wingbacks weren't able to step forward, because if you have Smith Rowe or Saka shifting out towards the touchline, then the wingbacks would be tasked with them and you wouldn't have the center backs pushing as high as Cedric or Bellerin. So for instance, if the ball was shifted out towards Cedric, Taarabt would step in towards his path, and then Weigl would be tasked with shifting over towards Xhaka. If he doesn't do that, then that leaves Xhaka free, and if he is higher up the pitch, perhaps Verissimo could step into his path, but this allows Cedric and Xhaka the opportunity to play a quick 1-2 around Taarabt to push Arsenal forward. And the same applied on the opposite flank. If the ball was shifted out towards Bellerin and Saka was occupying Grimaldo at the touchline, then Pizzi would have to shift forward to close down the right back. If Benfica were wary of the threat of Odegaard between the lines, they could have Weigl hold this position and then have their front two dropping off deeper to close down the spare Arsenal midfielder. So one of the key tactical themes to Arsenal getting into good positions focused on Xhaka and Ceballos moving into the inside left and the inside right position. When we look at the left-hand side, Xhaka would drop to the left of Gabriel to pick up possession, but what was key here was that he would pull out Taarabt, and then that would leave a huge gap for Odegaard to potentially get the ball, for Smith Rowe to drop deeper to pull out Verissimo, or what would end up happening here was that if he was shifted out towards the touchline, he would occupy Gonçalves, and then that would allow Cedric to receive the ball freely. That forces Weigl to shift across, and if he doesn't, that allows Cedric to push forward. But if Smith Rowe does hold this position, then it allows the right wing back to step towards Cedric, and Smith Rowe would drop deeper to pull out Verissimo, and it would allow Aubameyang to spin into that left channel to drag out Otamendi, or Smith Rowe would receive the ball, and then that's when you would see combination play with Cedric as Smith Rowe darts into that left channel space. If we look to an example, we have Xhaka dropping to the left of Gabriel to pull out Taarabt, and the Arsenal center back receives more space to bypass the Benfica forward and Taarabt. Smith Rowe drops off Verissimo to receive Gabriel's pass, and the issue Benfica encounter here is neither Taarabt or Gonçalves have shifted to Cedric. Cedric now has time to pick out Aubameyang spinning into the left channel to drag away Otamendi, or Smith Rowe running beyond Verissimo and Gonçalves in Benfica's half. That ultimately results in Otamendi failing to clear Cedric's ball over the top, which sets Smith Rowe free on goal, but Helton jumped off his line to clear danger. Here you could see Gabriel sliding the ball across Waldschmidt for Cedric on the left touchline, and with Gonçalves unable to step forward, Taarabt should be shifting across to close down the Arsenal left back. The issue that Benfica encounter here is Weigl's failure to close down Xhaka, which results in a quick 1-2 between the Arsenal midfielder and Cedric around Taarabt that sets Cedric free to run at the back four. However, when Cedric breaks free, his additional touch forced Aubameyang offside as he splits Verissimo and Gonçalves to set the Arsenal striker free. And then we could look to a time where Xhaka receives the pass from an inside left position to pull out Taarabt, and he slides it to an unmarked Cedric because Smith Rowe is occupying the Benfica right wing back. Cedric slides the ball across Gonçalves for Smith Rowe spinning off Verissimo into the left channel, and when Smith Rowe receives the ball, he pokes it across Verissimo for Cedric running across Gonçalves in the left channel, but Otamendi comes across to make a challenge to concede the corner. Meanwhile, when we look to the right-hand side, when you have Ceballos dropping into that inside right position, Saka was occupying Vertonghen, and that's when you would see Bellerin looking to make runs across Grimaldo, with Ceballos looking to split the Grimaldo-Vertonghen gap. Initially, you could see David Luiz sliding the ball between the Benfica front two for Xhaka, who's pressed by Tyrrell, and he instantly slides the ball to Ceballos, dropping into an inside right position to pull out Pizzi, while Odegaard's movement drags Weigl into that same zone. As Pizzi applies pressure on Ceballos, he opts to slide the ball around Weigl and Odegaard for Bellerin's run off Grimaldo, and as you can see here, Ceballos' pass splits Vertonghen and Grimaldo for Bellerin's run off the left wing back, and that's where you see Saka and Aubameyang beginning to move off the Benfica exterior center backs towards the box. Ultimately, that results in Bellerin placing Aubameyang in a legitimate goal scoring position, but he failed to put Arsenal ahead. Shortly after that, you could see Ceballos picking up the ball ahead of the Benfica forwards, and he attempts to split Darwin and Tyrrell and Weigl and Pizzi with hopes of bypassing Grimaldo for Bellerin. Luckily for the Arsenal midfielder, Weigl's deflection guides it into the Arsenal right back's path. When Bellerin receives the ball ahead of Grimaldo, he pokes it back to Saka ahead of Vertonghen, and Bellerin makes a run across Vertonghen into space behind Grimaldo, which enables Saka the ability to place the ball onto his left foot across the Benfica left back to fire a tame effort at Helton. If we look to another example, we could see Saka playing a square pass across Tyrrell and Grimaldo for Bellerin, who made a run off Darwin, and as Saka takes two Benfica players out of the game, he has Odegaard shifting to the right channel to occupy Vertonghen, Weigl looking to step onto the ball, and Ceballos in an advanced inside right position to the right of Vertonghen. When Weigl steps forward to apply pressure, Bellerin pokes the ball across the Benfica midfielder into Ceballos, shifting laterally across Vertonghen, and he backheels the ball first time around the Benfica left center back for Saka, making a run across Grimaldo to place himself into a goal scoring position. However, while Saka does well to cut across Otamendi, he drags his shot wide of the front post. If we shift back to the board, now we'll focus on Odegaard, who did struggle to influence the game consistently, but when he did shift away from Weigl to pick up the ball in an inside right position or towards the right touchline, he was able to utilize his passing to get his teammates into good positions. Here we could see Ceballos dropping between the Benfica center forwards to receive the ball from David Luiz, and he splits Darwin and Weigl with a pass across Pizzi to Odegaard shifting to the right channel. Odegaard takes his touch across Pizzi to split Pizzi and Weigl and Vertonghen and Grimaldo for Saka, making a run off Vertonghen's shoulder from a deeper midfield position. But while Odegaard places Saka into right half space with his pass, Vertonghen tracks the run well and forces Saka to play the ball back to the Arsenal midfielder. Later on in the second half, you witness Odegaard receiving Bellerin's pass back ahead of Tyrrell, and he slides the ball across Saka, dropping off Vertonghen into the Otamendi-Vertonghen gap for Aubameyang's run between Verissimo and Otamendi. However, Odegaard's pass for Aubameyang was slightly overhit, and it rolled into Helton. And then in the build-up to Arsenal's equalizer, as Benfica failed to clear their lines, you see Aubameyang drop the ball off to Odegaard ahead of Weigl, and Aubameyang's position takes Verissimo and Gonçalves out of the game, which creates space for Cedric to break into. When Cedric receives Odegaard's pass in left half space, it places him in a position to locate Saka, breaking free towards the 6-yard box, and that's what results in the tap-in that gave Arsenal the vital away goal. And lastly, if Arsenal didn't want to play through Benfica's press, they could simply look to play balls over the top to try and get Saka or Aubameyang in behind what looks to be a slow Benfica backline. The problem that they had initially was that when they were playing those balls over the top, Saka and Aubameyang were backing into the Benfica center backs, and they struggled to win those battles. You could look to the time where Leno played the ball over the top for Aubameyang backing into Otamendi, but Aubameyang failed to turn the center back, who brushes the Arsenal striker off the ball to regain possession. There was a time where Darwin shifted across to apply pressure on David Luiz towards the touchline, and he attempted to bypass the Benfica press with a ball over the top, and that's when you witness Saka backing into Vertonghen. But as you could see, Vertonghen's pressure makes it difficult for Saka to bring the ball down, and it ended up falling into the path of Pizzi. However, when Saka and Aubameyang looked to make runs in behind that defense, that's when they encountered more success. Arsenal were able to get themselves into a good goal scoring position for the build up to their equalizer when Danny Ceballos dropped ahead of the Benfica center backs to get on the ball, and that's when he located Saka making a run off Vertonghen, and he ended up clipping the ball into the right channel for the Arsenal attacker. And then later on in that game, we see Xhaka dropping to the left of Gabriel to form a back three, and the Arsenal center back locates Aubameyang's run behind the Benfica backline. Aubameyang ends up bringing down the ball over the top into Benfica's penalty area to place him in a 1v1 with Helton, as Verissimo attempts to track back, but Aubameyang opts to cut back onto his right foot, and that enables the Benfica right center back time to recover and make a vital tackle to halt the Arsenal attack. So as you can see, Arsenal could have utilized the threat of Aubameyang and Saka in behind on a more consistent basis, but they did enjoy success with their midfield three dropping into positions away from the center of the pitch. Over on the left-hand side, they were able to pull them out of position with Cedric and Smith Rowe's movement. And on the right-hand side, they were able to utilize Odegaard and Ceballos' passing range to get teammates into good positions, but they simply failed to take their chances. Hi everybody, thanks for watching and subscribe here for your latest tactical analysis and daily commentary on the Interview show. And if that wasn't enough, don't forget you could find more organic, unfiltered soccer/football analysis on the Interviews podcast, the best soccer/football podcast in the world, available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and any Android apps on your Android devices.